Hello everyone. So our next assignment is write a program for DNS lookup. Given an IP address input and it should return URL and vice versa. Okay. Uh, in this assignment, but before we will discuss what is the DNS. Okay. Uh, let's we have see the slide introduction of DNS system. Okay, domain name system. Yes, the purpose of naming the address are used to locate objects, and then names are easier to remember than numbers. Okay, in that previous assignment I discussed the IP address. So IP address is a 32-bit address, and the 32-bit IP address for a particular organization. Each and every organization have an IP address. So IP address we can't remember the whole IP address. So we should recognize with another name means a domain name system. Okay, so in the domain name system it should be recognized easily. For example, www.google.com, but google.com IP address is very different, and we can't remember the IP address of uh, Google. So that's why we are a purpose of naming. We would like to get to address or other object using a name. Okay, in that the number of objects we will discuss to coming slide. Okay, and then DNS provide a mapping from names to a resource of several types. So here the number of mapping we will discuss on next slide. See, first domain name is always is a way to identify and locate computers connected to the internet. And two-way, no two organization can have same domain name. Yes, obviously, otherwise it should be a duplicate the name, or so some users are confusing for the same name, it not assigned for the same name as a domain name. Domain name is always consist of two or more components separated by periods called dots. Okay, and then for example, www.yahoo.co in www.facebook.com, like that. Okay, so we have to separate it using dot periods. And once the domain has been established, subdomain can be created within the domain. Example, the domain for the large company would be a winnie.com, and within this domain subdomain can be created for each of the company regional office, like a Bombay. Okay, in that Bombay regional office, and the company name is winnie.com, like that. Okay, structure of domain name. The last name dot domain name dot second level domain and top level domain. Okay, this is the structure of the domain name. Okay, the example of like Vijay is a person. Okay, and he working in Bombay section, and yeah, it is a organization name. Okay, so third level domain is a www, and then second level domain is a the exact name of the company, and the top level domain is a organization. Okay, maybe like .com, .in, .uk, .us. Okay, like that. Next, domain name. A domain name is a way to identify and locate computers connected to the internet. And sorry, already okay. See, the IP address of www.google.com. Okay, so for example, the IP address, each and every time IP address should be a change, because IP address it should be a dynamically allocate, or maybe a manually allocate. Okay, so 173.94.73.94. Okay, this is the IP address. When we are using our GSPM Wi-Fi, then we will use 192.168.10.1. Okay, like that, their IP address. Okay, so this is the we are using a class C address. Okay, see, the top level domains are classified into three categories. First one is a organization or generic domains, and second one is a geographical or country domains, and third is a reverse domains. Okay, so these are the top level domains. So organizational generic domains, it consists of three characters code which indicates the primary function of the organization of their generic behavior. Most commonly top level domains are like .com. Okay, this is a commercial organization like www.yahoo.com, and then .net is a networking organization, for example www.z.net, and .goe for the government organization, for example www.newjersey.gov. Okay, otherwise number of government organization you heard that. .edu for organization, educational organization, for example www.udu.cause.edu. Okay, so this is the educational organization. And then org for non-commercial organization like www.eklavya.org. And then .mil for military organization, www.dod.mil means military organization, and .int is an international organization, like for example www.itu.int, like that. Okay, this is the organizational generic domains. Okay, graphical and country domains. Okay, the second level. Okay, they consist of two characteristics which represent different countries. Okay, only a two character. Okay, and regions all around the world. These codes have been standardized by International Standard Organization, ISO. For example, .in is India, and .jp is Japan, .us our like United States, .fr is a France, .it is a Italy, .cn is a China, and .au is a Australia, like that. Okay, this is a geographical country domain name. Okay, and then a reverse domain. Okay, it is a special domain name in address.arpa that is used to translate the IP address to fully qualified domain name. Example, 1.4.220.134 in address.arpa will return is a sync.scit.wlv. Okay, here 1.4.220.134 is the IP address of the map, the name, this a particular organization. Okay, so with the help of in address arpa dot name means is a reverse arpa domain name. Okay, domain name system, each domain name has corresponding IP address. For example, suppose you are using a YouTube channel, and then you can check that which IP address using the YouTube. Okay, so each and every organization may be corresponding regional uh, geographical regional domain. Okay, so each and every using a corresponding IP address. When the user types domain name in the address bar, the corresponding IP address is supplied. Such a translation is possible with the help of DNS, domain name system. When we are putting www.google.com, it should be a translate into a domain name to the IP address, like that. The definition of domain name system is a collection of database that contains information about the domain names and their corresponding IP addresses. Sometimes IP addresses may be manual or dynamically. Okay, so all the database should be handled by the domain name system. So working of DNS here, the user request for the server, okay, using www.greymousecloud.com, and then the DNS server acknowledge the IP address like 202.174.104.61. So when a user input the you input the domain name, and then automatically server give the one IP address. So all the database are stored in a DNS server. Okay, then using this HTTP request and HTTP response. Okay, this is a web server also, it should be involved. And then when the application program needs to communicate with others computer, it needs to translate the name and other computers into its IP address. The application program that requests the service then becomes the client of DNS. Means when the application program to communicate with the other computers, it needs to translate the name and other computers to its IP address. Okay, so each and every communication between the two computers, we need first one is name and the corresponding IP address, and then it sends the request to the DNS server. The server looks up the name and then the returns the correct IP address. Okay, so using HTTP request and response. A large number of DNS server may be involved to get the right IP address. After receiving the correct IP address, the communication between the two computer will start. Okay, when getting IP address from the DNS server, then we will start with the communication between the other computers. So DNS example, see, is a typical example. When you type a name www.yahoo.com into your browser, it asks local DNS server first, not directly ask to the main server. It asks for the local server at ISP, Internet Service Provider end, for its IP address. Then uh, first here a client requesting for the local DNS server. Okay, using Internet Service Provider end. When local DNS server does not find the IP address of given name, it forward the request to root DNS server and again inquire about the IP address of it. Then local DNS server request to the root server. Okay, root DNS server, and root server server replies, I don't know the IP address of www.yahoo.com, but know the IP address of the DNS server. Okay, this is a main DNS server, and then I reply the local DNS server for the main DNS server, and then local DNS then ask the com DNS server. Means this is a com na. Okay, this is a commercial. So commercial, all the data should be stored in a commercial. Okay, so local DNS then ask for the com DNS server of IP address. So it should be a this is the um, this is the example of DNS server. Then the .com next is a DNS server replies with the same answer. It does not know the IP address of www.yahoo.com, but know the IP address of yahoo.com. Yes, but yahoo.com DNS server, which is the return to the local DNS server. Okay, and then local DNS server then ask for the yahoo.com. Okay, he will get the yahoo.com IP address. Then he asked to the sorry, it asked to the yahoo.com, and then replies the IP address corresponding www.yahoo.com, which it has. The local DNS server then sends the IP address back to the client, then send the request. Okay, this is the DNS working strategy. Okay, so I hope everybody can understand what is the DNS working. Okay, so first he asked for the suppose he or she ask for the requesting for the particular particular IP address of a DNS domain name system www.yahoo.com. After that, requesting to the local DNS server. Local DNS servers check that their database, if it is available, can reply to the client, but it not match, then ask to the root DNS server. Same, also the root DNS server also check that the yahoo.com www.yahoo.com IP address, but it is not match, then ask for the commercial DNS server, and commercial DNS server also check the www.yahoo.com, but it has only yahoo.com IP address and sends to the DNS server and then return to the local server, and local server then ask to the yahoo.com DNS server of IP address, and then replies the IP address corresponding of yahoo.com it has. So this is the local DNS server then sends the IP address back to the client that sent the request by the client. Okay, this is the DNS. Okay, so we go with the uh, programming. Just a minute. Okay, so I will stop here, and then I will start my uh, editor. Okay, Eclipse editor. Just a minute. Okay, I will put another window. Okay, then I go with the Eclipse. Okay, yes, now it is visible. Okay, so here, okay, here I already made one program of DNS lookup. Means when we are giving domain name system, then reply the IP address, and suppose we are giving the IP address to the user, it automatically give the domain name. So it is vice versa. Okay, through using a DNS lookup. So here create one a string host, and one scanner is taken from the system or .in, and then I will I take some input from the user, uh, uh, which is which one first is take. Okay, enter the host name or enter the IP address or a number of choices, maybe taking a one or taking a two. If it is enter choice ch dot next int, then we just check that if it is customer given choice number one, then go with the enter host name. So enter host name, you should start with the name of the host, for example www.google.com. Then he should read that, and then after reading the name of google.com, then check the IP address of google Google domain name, and taking the address of the get host address, and also host name of the suppose we are asking the host name of the IP address, then it reply the host name using host name and ID IP address to the string. Okay, so here the same simple program. Okay, so host name, when we are giving host name, then it convert to the IP address, and IP address we are giving the automatically host name will appear. Okay, on this program, just I will run this program. Just a wait. Okay, it will run. Yes, which IP demo, just a minute. Yes, they're asking two choices. First choice is enter the host name, and second choice is enter IP address. Suppose you are taking a choice number one. Okay, suppose I am taking a choice number one, then enter host name, and then I put the host name is www.yahoo.com. Then reply the server is the IP address of Yahoo is 202.165.107.49. So this is the both display, the host name is yahoo.com, and IP address is 202. Okay, so 202.65.1072.49. So once again I will run this program, and I will check that uh, the second choice, the IP address. Okay, so IP address, I think my IP address is 8.8.8.8. Okay, so this is a DNS IP address. So we will check that it is correct, or okay, yes, this is a DNS Google. This IP address is already set for the DNS 8.8.8. Okay, this is a DNS Google, and this is our DNS lookup program. When we are giving a host name, it convert to the IP address, or IP address to the host name. Okay, so I hope everybody can understand. Okay, thank you very much.